Some Were Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 62. Chapter 14. I Know. There was salt in his mouth, water chilled by the beginnings of fall, making his hero uniform cling to his skin, blood in his mouth, bitter as copper, and his eyes were burning. From tears, or his quirk, or the salt water soaking around him, he will never know. And there was Izuku who was limp in his arms, lips tinged blue, and green curls plastered on his forehead. Izuku, who wasn't breathing, hadn't been breathing for a long time. There was a crowd of heroes and children's alike on the dock. Izuku's friend, Denki, and the other one, the quiet one, Hitoshi. Denki was sobbing, hands shaking as they tore at his hair, and Hitoshi looked pale and frozen. Hitoshi's father was beside him, taking off his jacket and preparing to dive into the water, because Shouta was stuck in place, barely keeping himself afloat, because Shouta couldn't swim, not well enough, and certainly not the distance between the dock and where they were in the water, and Izuku was running out of time. Hizashi wasn't there yet, wasn't near the dock, probably had no idea he and Izuku were in the water, fighting the villain muscular. He could hear the fight from there, though the buzzing static in his brain, crashes, roar of anger, grunts of pain and frustration, pained yelps. Mr. Shinsou was in the water now, taking the child away from him, and for a moment, just a moment, Shouta wanted to fight him, to take the child back, because he wasn't sure what was happening anymore, but he knew he needed the child back. Shinsou swam away, taunting Izuku along with him. Shouta tried to make his way over to the docks, and there was a giant splash right next to him, a pair of arms, hauling him up and out of the water, towards the deck. Tensei Ida, because he always seemed to be there in time to witness Shouta's weakest moments. He took a moment, just a moment, to lay out on the dock, coughing and gasping and choking on blood and salt water and terror. He looked towards the crowd of children surrounding Izuku through wet, tangled strands of black hair. He could see Izuku's head, chin tilted back, lips still tinted blue, face a pale white. And for a moment, just a moment, he looked so incredibly fragile it made Shouta's heart break. Shinsou was performing CPR. Tensei was shouting in his ear. Shouta couldn't do more than heave heavily, pants, breaths, chest burning and shoulders shuddering. He tugged at his hair harshly, because a part of him knew he needed to move and get the child to safety and do something. But Izuku was dead. And Shouta, in that moment, with pure terror running through his veins, and a detached sort of numbness making his mind foggy, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. There was blood everywhere. Blood of the fallen heroes, blood from the injured, dead civilians, blood sticking to the roof of his mouth, and bodies littering the ground like old wrappers, screaming and pain and carnage, and his new nephew was dead or dying, and Shouta was useless. Before. The days leading up to Shouta's appointment with Hound Dog only seemed to get worse and worse, nightmares haunting him night after night. He was sure Hizashi was trying to work up to talk to him. Hizashi's hearing aids had gotten broken in a mission, and they had to take money out of their savings to cover the price of the new ones. And they've been so ridiculously on edge and twitchy the entire week. He wanted nothing more than to bury himself into a few of his weighted blankets and sleep the week away. And his knee. God, his knee. It had been a year since the accident, but even so, sometimes he could still feel his legs shattering under the strength villain's weight, the bone snapping, the kneecap squashing inward in a way that was not natural. Shouta didn't like taking pen medication, Tylenol, prescription drugs, nothing, because he didn't want to risk becoming reliant on them in order to do his job. But lately, his knees smarting the way it was, not even his brace helping, the half-empty bottle of ibuprofen had become a necessity. And then there was a child who was beginning to ask questions. He watched an old Disney movie, and at the parts where Takashi Hamada had walked into the burning building, Both Izuku and Hizashi had teared up when the building exploded outwards. But then, once the movie was over, Izuku had climbed onto the couch next to him and asked, "Ankisho, where do people go when they die?" "I don't know." And then the following night, when he, Hizashi, Nemuri, and Izuku had watched a movie about a single father, Izuku had asked, "Ankisho, where do babies come from?" Shouta had choked on his water, Nemuri had crackled. Hizashi, who had been the only one to actually answer the question, weaseled out, "Nowhere good." Thankfully, Izuku hadn't asked any more follow-up questions on the subject, taking Hisashi's word to heart, which made Shouta worry that he thought babies were evil creatures now, or something of the sort. But he decided to ignore it and move on with his life, because he was not ready to have that particular conversation with his ward. And when he and Hizashi told Izuku he wouldn't be able to go on the field trip, he almost missed the awkward questions, because Izuku wasn't talking to them at all. "Look, Zu, babe, Ochako and Mei aren't going either, you know? Maybe you can stay and keep Ochako company, huh?" Hizashi suggested, kneeling by the child's bed. He looked tired. His hair was a mess from how many times he ran his hand through it, and he looked at the end of his rope. "Does that sound nice?" Izuku had just sniffled, pulled the blanket over his head, and hid there. Shouta could honestly admit the child annoyed him sometimes, simply because of the unending questions and the unceasing bursts of energy. But the child giving him the silent treatment was something that made Shouta distinctly uncomfortable. "Child, I know you're mad at us, but it really is for your safety." Shouta tried, standing by his bed instead of kneeling because his legs still hurt and he wasn't going to aggravate it. "Your Auntie Nem misses you. She's worried about you. Can you talk to her, at least?" No response. The child didn't even look up. Shouta sighed, leaving the room. He couldn't be angry with the child. Not really. Not for being angry. Shouta supposed, had he been the child's age, he would have been upset at not being able to go on a field trip such as this one. It wasn't every day a 6-year-old boy got to meet heroes. But there were always risks. Always. It was a fact of life, sometimes. Everything has its drawbacks. It's dangerous. And Izuku wouldn't be able to do many things in life, simply because of Shouta's and Hisashi's status as heroes. He supposed the child would have to learn that eventually. That didn't make Shouta feel any less guilty. On the day of Shouta's appointment, the day that Izuku's field trip took place, Shouta's bed was empty, bearing a fuzzy, heavy lump sitting on his chest. Takara. He scratched the cat behind her ears. Sickly, sweet anxiety seeping into his stomach and making him feel ill. At least the appointment took place on test day. That was an upside. Shouta hated test days. It meant he would have to sit still, so as to not distract the students, and, as the teenagers frequently reminded him, he was constantly pacing during their lessons. But he could pretend, just for a little while, that this was right in the world, and there was no rush to get up and start the day. He could pretend, even if it was only for a moment. He pushed the cat off his chest, changed from his pajamas into a hoodie and a pair of jeans that were probably older than Izuku. They had been far too big for him when he bought them, and walked down the hall into the kitchen. He wouldn't be teaching that day, as Nezu had reminded him, so there was really no point in changing into his hero uniform. Sashi was cooking scrambled eggs, toast, and bacon. Izuku was already at the table, head held in his hands grumly, looking like he was still half asleep. There was a green paper next to him, face down on the table, and next to that, a blue pen. Shouta didn't say anything to the child as he sat down. Izuku turned to look at him. "Ankisho," he said, holding up the paper. "My teacher gave me this yesterday. You gotta sign this, so I could get my ears and eyes tested at school. If you don't, we gotta get them tested at the doctor's office." The child wrinkled his nose in distaste. Shouta took the paper, glancing it over. Ear test, vision, it was all there. He grabbed the blue pen, quickly signing the paper and passing it back to Izuku. The child looked delighted. "Thanks, Ankisho!" Izuku exclaimed, smiling sweetly. "You're welcome," Shouta said slowly, already feeling a bit suspicious. Perhaps the child was just grateful he didn't have to visit the doctor? Hizashi placed the plate in front of Izuku, ruffling his hair. Then he handed Shouta his plate. kissing him on the forehead as he did so. Izuku gagged dramatically in the background. Something wasn't adding up, but Shouta couldn't quite put his finger on it. He shook the feeling off, attributing it to nervousness over the appointment, and ate his breakfast. It was going to be a long day. Izuku grabbed his paper, carrying it towards his backpack carefully, like it was precious cargo. He placed it into his folder, looked over his shoulders to make sure the adults weren't watching, and put that in his backpack as well. He had 10 minutes before he had to leave for school. He ran into his room, opened his piggy bank, and taked out 10,000 yen in allowance money. He had been saving up for a while, and he did a lot of chores around the house and at Akinami's apartment, so he got paid a lot, and put that into the front pocket of his bag. 7 minutes. Ankisho was in the bathroom, and Izuku could hear the water in the sink running. Hizashi was in the kitchen, cupboard doors opening and closing as he hurried to pack Izuku's lunch. He walked into the kitchen, and while Hizashi was digging through overhead cabinets, he took out 3 packaged brownies, quickly shoving those into his backpack as well, before hopping down. "Do you need help?" Izuku asked Hizashi, mentally counting down the time until he could go to school. 4 minutes. Hizashi answered, looking a bit surprised. "Oh no, Izuku, I'm almost done," he said, taking a package of peanut butter crackers and tossing it into the paper bag. He handed it to Izuku. "I packed a couple extra desserts for you, as an apology. I know you were really looking forward to that trip." For a moment, Izuku felt guilty. He tried to push the feeling down. "It's okay, I understand." He didn't, but he needed to get out of the front door, to go to school, not to get caught, or this would have all been for nothing. "Oh," Hizashi said, looking even more surprised. "Well, that's good, I'm glad," he said, smiling and ruffing his hair again, like he had at the breakfast table. Izuku smiled up at him. He felt a little sick. He hated lying. He tried to remember why he was doing this. He was going to meet the water hose heroes, and Hitoshi really wanted him to go too, since Denki still wasn't quite sure if he was going to get to go, and Hitoshi didn't want to be by himself. Not to mention that the kids at school teased him enough already. Imagine what they would say if he found out he couldn't go on the field trip. It would be fine. There were going to be heroes on the field trip, and heroes' jobs were to help others, so surely Izuku would be safe. And there were going to be a lot of heroes at the dock, at least 10, and no one would mess with that many heroes in one place. Izuku frowned at his shoes. Now that he thought about it more, he was starting to feel a bit nervous. It was going to be fine, Izuku assured himself. Hizashi said if he was ready to go, and Izuku rushed towards the front door. It'll be fine. Because Izuku had gotten everything he needed. He had the money, which he hadn't stolen, so he wouldn't get in trouble for that, the signed form, and the brownies, as payment for the older girl who used her quirk to change the paper's appearance, which was so cool. Everything would be fine. About that. About that. Oh my god. Oh my god. I am _Ellie. Why would you do this to us? Why would you tempt us in showing us how horrible everything goes just to have Izuku end it with like, haha, I'll be fine. I mean, it's not the end of the chapter, but like, I'm ending it there because I thought that would be funny. Okay. Well, well, I'm gonna 100% say that we are completely in new territory because this is not at all the huge like, oh no, angsty conflict moment that I thought happened. I thought a social worker came in, is like, haha, he, Izuku's not doing well. If he does not do better within a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of months, you are not able to keep Izuku. Turns out that is not at all what happened. Can we bring that back? I actually want that one to be back. Can we have that one? I don't want this one. I don't like this. Can we have another one? I don't like this one. I think this one's making me cry. Teacher, this one's making me cry. This fanfic made me cry. Teacher, what the fuck is is going on? Okay. All right. Okay. No. We can handle this. We can do this. We can handle this, guys. We could get through this. We're all reasonably okay adults. Like, nothing's gonna happen to Izuku. Okay, he can't die. He can't die. Okay, he's not gonna die. He's not gonna die. Whew. I'm breathing. Let's all breathe here. In and out. In and out. Imagine you are in a beach. In and out. Imagine you are in a forest. In and out. Imagine you are. I wonder, can I bring my thingy? Can you guys hear that? I wonder if you sorry, loud sound warning in 3, 2, 1. I'm not sure you heard it. I think because of noise suppression, you can't hear it, but let me check if you could hear it. I took noise suppression off, so let's hope you could hear it now. Also, the quality of my of my mic probably went really down. My mic itself has a suppression as well, so don't know if that's gonna at all affect this, so let's try. I don't know if you could hear it. Hopefully you can. Let's go. You heard it. All right, so let's just think about that. Let's breathe in, let's breathe out. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Nothing wrong's gonna happen. I also want to talk psychology corner for like a split second. Not really big psychology corner, but Izuku's at that age in development where he starts asking why, how, what's this, where does this come from, how is this, what's this, and that never stops. Well, I mean, it dies down. Kids don't start, like, legitimately asking. It goes from why, to them trying to figure it out themselves. And even in teen years, they're still asking that question in their head, whether unconsciously or consciously, like, how does this work? Why is this like this? How this? How that? Surprisingly, psychology-wise, teenagers are actually quite, they want to get more information. Except thanks to the schooling system and external circumstances, a lot of the times that gets beaten out of them, right? Like, for example, if a kid's constantly asking you why, and you tell the kid he's annoying, they're annoying, she's annoying, constantly, guess what they're gonna learn to do? Suppress the why. Exactly. Lesson learned. Don't suppress your kid's why, all right? As annoying as it motherfucking is, which, trust me, it's annoying, they're just trying to learn the world, right? And you are their guide. You are their guide, so guide them. Do what you're supposed to do. You brought them into this world. You guide them. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.